I just kind of had to know personally. Like we had so much chemistry and our characters were so great. Are we that great?
Let's just dive right in and talk about Say Anything, which I can't believe is already over 30 years old. And tell me what your feelings are about it.
I love being connected to that movie and the Peter Gabriel song, and it's been nothing but really nice for me to be connected to that film.
I did. I do always think about that boombox scene and how romantic it is. And it was interesting in the book you talk about, and if you could tell us a little bit about how that came to be, because John Cusack didn't necessarily want to do it.
No, he'd had his fill of teen rom-coms and he wanted to do just grown-up serious movies. But Cameron Crowe was determined to have him because he was kind of a big star and he's so unique and so brilliant. So we had to really convince him. And part of the convincing was letting him write a couple of his speeches, and he got to put in some music he liked and get his look together. So he had a lot of input in it to a certain extent. And thankfully, we convinced him because it's such a unique character and he's so obviously perfect for that role. So that was really great.
And you talk a lot. I don't know if people realize it, that you're like a Hollywood or a celebrity family. That your dad is Donovan Mellow Yellow, but you had. I mean, it's kind of hard to read. It's a very was not an easy childhood for you, and he wouldn't acknowledge you for a while.
Yeah, that was really confusing and painful. And it was hard to listen to his music, especially as a teenager, and hear such beautiful love songs and think, how could someone write such beautiful love songs? But where am I in this situation? And so it was very confusing, and there was a lot of longing there. And I also, once I started doing press, I really didn't want people to feel sorry for me. So when people, I just wanted to say, yes, my father's Donovan. I grew up with my mother, and that was great. But people really wanted to know, wait, where was he? Why didn't you grow up with him? And I wanted to protect him. I wanted to kind of protect myself. But yeah, it was very confusing and painful.
Now, are you glad you did get the opportunity to reconnect with him? Are you glad that you got that chance?
Yeah, for sure. The thing that I walked away from when I first met him, when I thought, how do I feel? Checking in with myself on the drive home, and I wanted more. I just wanted more of him. I wanted to know him more. And so that just that feeling, I want to know him more. And also it meant there's something really great and special about him. So there was as painful and as many hurt feelings as I had, I really am happy that we know each other and we see each other probably every 3 or 4 years. It's not a lot, but when we do, it's always very poignant and tender and complicated. But while I'm in front of him and while we're together, it's kind of great.
So you talk obviously a lot about relationships in the book, and you had a pretty your first love was a pretty significant one with Anthony Kiedis. Which now looking back, how old were you when you first started dating him, and how old was he?
I was still 16. He was 8 years older. So what is that? 20?
24.
Yes,
24 and a
24
drug addict.
and a drug addict. I didn't know about that. I had not seen that up close, thankfully. I saw people smoking pot once in a while, growing up in the 70s, but I never saw that. And when I heard about it from Flea, I'd done a movie with Flea, like my best friend Anthony's in rehab. I thought it sounded like a 1950s movie about a bad boy. Like I had no idea. And then once I was invested, I was like way over my head. And I love those guys, but I wish I'm glad I know them, but I wish I had waited 10 years and then just like maybe just been friends. But yeah, it was a lot.
So, in looking back, and there were a lot of parts in this book, and you had so many adventures as a kid, but a lot of the times I'm like, Ron, you're just a kid. Like,
Yes.
how does that feel for you looking back at your younger self and you didn't have a lot of protection around you?
Right. Yeah, my mother was distraught and I basically when I moved from my childhood house into an apartment with him, I kind of like packed up and kind of moved the stuff like when she wasn't home. And my brother and my mother were like sick to their stomachs about it, but I had been working already. I thought I was older than I was. I wasn't the kind of kid that was like, you can't tell me what to do. I was always quite respectful the way I spoke to my mom, usually, but I think she just felt she couldn't stop me. I was going to do what I wanted to do. And yes, it wasn't the time of like with my kids, we have so much communication and now, you know, tell an adult if someone tells you something that you think is going to hurt them or it was like a lot of that conversation now that I have with my kids if they are with someone or hear something that's kind of heavy like this is not up to you, you should tell a teacher all of these things, but that wasn't really what was going on and my mom was not like a very authoritative parent and I really felt like I was older than I was, I guess because I'd been working and so there was not much she was able to do at that point.
Yeah. I have to say, the account of your marriage to Adam Horovitz to Ad-Roc from Beastie Boys, it was very poignant because I felt like it was really true love. You were very young and you were really honest. You talked about how you cheated on him and you said it was just your whatever, like I think childhood and I think you would, I don't know, maybe you can tell me the reasons why.
Yeah, I think well, he felt very familiar. My mother was like a New Yorker, from a Jewish New York family. There was something that just felt probably very familiar to me. And I'd come from such a hard 2 years with Anthony, and it felt like such a safe space. And then my career was blowing up. So being with him felt very like protective. I could protect myself from the outside world and things that were coming at me. And I just dove right into it to such an extent. And I just wanted it so badly that, we got married. And I think it was just the case. I was just too young to be in a serious, a real marriage. Although I wanted to, and I loved him and I loved being married, but I wanted to see if I could do both. Can I have this security, my best friend, my husband, I love him, and also be a college age person who wants to experiment and go out. And I'd gone from young career to very heavy relationship to a marriage. And I just think I needed space. And when I wrote the book, the time that when we broke up was so painful, but it also was me being on my own, finally sort of living what a young 20s person in their 20s probably should be doing. And so there was a piece there, even though I've spent my whole life feeling like I really do wish he was still in my life as as a friend or something, because it was like losing a family member when we split up.
What was it like being around both the Chili Peppers and the Beastie Boys in sort of their heyday era?
It was really exciting. I mean, the Chili Pepper thing was stressful because I think they had a lot of stress and they were blowing up. But I think between their band member Hillel dying and Anthony, it was exciting, but I think it was hard in some ways and it was just blowing up. It was like this rocket that was kind of going somewhere. And the Beastie Boys, I was more involved. Also, the Chili Peppers, they had like no girlfriends on tour. It was just like very old fashioned and, you know, rock and rolly in that way. Whereas the Beastie Boys women, I felt were treated like a little more like the same as the men, and it was the three girlfriends of the three band members, and we all cooked and hung out, and it was just amazing, and them creating and on tour, and we traveled the world a few times, and it was so exciting to go to Japan with a band that everyone loved. You get to kind of see a side of Japan that's like on the down low and the coolest people, and it was really I wouldn't have changed that for the world. That was wonderful to be a part of the Beastie Boys whole world.
I also loved in the book, you're really honest about your affairs with women and bisexuality, and I feel like not many people write about that. And why did you decide to? You could have not included it. Like, why did you decide to include it?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. I think I now the word queer is so much more of a word, but I kind of grew up in a sort of queer household in a sense. Well, my mother had so many gay male friends, and it it's a very safe space, those kind of worlds. Like why I was drawn to hanging out with this group of lesbians and going out with them. I think it just felt like safe and nice, and I could just relax and just kind of, there wasn't the tension of certain nightclubs when you go out and it's like men and women. And because I was wondering what drew me to that kind of world. So I personally don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just, it wasn't like I need to say this to do some political thing or anything. I I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Have I been in therapy for many years and tried to analyze like why was I able to be attracted and even fall in love with women? Why? I still don't know. So sure, I wanted to find out, and I was like fascinated and curious, like what is this? Where did this come from? But I don't know. I think I'm more, if there's a spectrum, I'm a little more straight than gay because I've always had longer term relationships with men. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of.
Oh, no, not at
Do
all.
you think it's become
Yeah.
easier to talk about and even for you to understand now that it's like socially become, the 80s was such a gay panic era, and now, we have so much more language and understanding of
Yes.
things.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, which is really good. Yeah, I mean I did have a funny thing where I knew gay men, but I was kind of scared as a kid of lesbians. Like, what is a lesbian? So when I found it kind of happening to me, I just thought, "Oh, this is not scary. It's not like what I don't know. I just thought that I just didn't even know if I knew any when I was growing up."
Well, you also had an affair with like one of the hottest lesbians ever, Jenny. I mean, hello.
Shumizu,
Yeah.
yes. I know. So also it was a time when Madonna was like hanging out with Sandra Bernhard, and it was just very also, it was definitely, kind of seemed like, wow, how fabulous. And there was a minute where I felt like all my girlfriends were like kissing girls for the first time, but then I noticed like mine was kind of going on a little longer. I was like, oh, wait, they stopped kind of making out with people.
Did you think with the relationship with Alice, where she was also doing drugs, was that something that you think maybe reminded you of Anthony Kiedis at all?
Yeah, for sure. In a not a great way. It's not fun seeing, wasn't exciting. It wasn't fun. I don't think I don't know. I just think it seems heavy, very heavy and a bit dark to, I don't know. It wasn't like a yay, I know what this is like, but also I was just taking it all in, kind of just watching and learning and and just sort of trying to understand and accept. And it clearly was in front of me quite a bit in my life. But yes, of course, the rules are place. Like this thing is the most important thing usually in someone's world when they're in that, and just understanding that kind of, okay, this is the main event at the time when people are into it. Yeah, it's something that I'm glad I'm not involved with at the moment, and she's not either.
I'm always interested in female celebrities, certainly when you are so lauded for your looks when you're younger, right? It's all about your face and the way you look, and then it's hard for any woman to age. I just think it's doubly hard for women in Hollywood where it's all about your look and then but your looks, but you're aging. Like, and I see
Yes.
why plastic surgery goes crazy. I get it. Like, I totally
Oh yeah.
understand that. So I wonder how what your relationship is with your face and how you feel about aging and.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard. This year was probably the hardest because I felt so great for so long and like I look amazing. And this year I started feeling, oh boy, this is going to be hard. So at once, as you get older, you hear women say you accept, you don't care as much. So there's that, which is great, but at the same time you're thrown with, okay, so now I have to apply this to not caring so much about the changes in my body and my face. But I'm just trying to do like I moved to Sydney with my husband and it's a kind of LA is very active and healthy, but Sydney feels like it's even more in some ways. So I'm just like, I'm gaining weight as you get older and I'm like, well, I'll just exercise more and it might not make me lose weight, but I'll feel healthier. And that's been helping. So I'm just trying to do what I can and it's hard. I definitely find it difficult. But I'm just trying to it's funny when you do naturally look I naturally looked good, naturally photogenic. And then as I get older, I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is I know what people used to talk about when they would say, oh, I have to hold my face in a certain way, and I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm trying to figure it all out. Trying to have compassion and just be, happy I'm just healthy, because then also I feel like thank God I'm healthy right now, and some people are really skinny because they're ill. You know what I mean? Like it's so it's a whole minefield, but I'm trying to just have a good attitude.
Well, you look perfect. And it made
Oh
me
my God, thank
so
you.
mad to read that when you were younger that there were these people that were like, don't eat that bonbon or
Oh,
whatever.
I
Like,
know. I know. And I really, that also, when I look back, sure, there were periods where I was a little heavier, but not the periods that mostly people were talking about when I was acting. I just thought, what? This is crazy. I was for sure, I don't know. I mean, maybe not by Hollywood standards, but even then I look back and I think, what was that? What was anyone talking about? I looked fine.
so in River's Edge, your first movie, you wear like a longer sweater.
Hmm.
And in the book, you say that you thought it was maybe to cover your bottom, but you were like the tiniest little thing. And how old were
I
you?
know, paranoia. Well, I have, which now is like people love a big butt. And then it wasn't that everyone wanted it was kind of everyone wanted like a little butt. I mean, not maybe not like flat as a pancake, but like big butts were a sign of like being overweight or so. I don't know. I feel like we were all hiding our bums. I don't know why. So I think I just had this thing, you get something in your head. And then that's very paranoid to think that the costume designer. I mean, I actually had that recently. I just did this movie in Australia called Anaconda with Jack Black and Paul Rudd, which is kind of exciting. And oh, I can't remember. They put some costume, oh, a flowier dress. I had like pants and then I asked the costume designer, did they say like was I looking like I need to cover something? Like I still had that mentality. And she said, no, 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 they just might want this dress. So I still have a bit of a paranoia, I guess, even now.
I love your love story now that you're married to, well, fellow Aussie, Ben Lee, and
Yes.
he's younger. And I just love that ending for you. It's fabulous.
Oh, I'm so happy for myself because I did know how to pick them. Like Adam Horovitz is so great. It just was too young and I was not ready. But Ben is just, he's the best. And I'm so happy. And we had a lot of friends in common. Everything about it was great. I was really determined. In the book, I say right before Ben, I know people can have good marriages. I have to believe them when they say it. I know it takes a lot of work, but I believe I can do that. I can do that. And I'm just so happy that I'm with someone who makes so supportive and it's so inspired and so happy for me. And I don't know, I just feel really lucky as well because I had that one great husband. And then sometimes, I kind of thought, okay, I guess that I had that. And now I don't know, but I feel like I had a second chance.
You got emancipated to work on films. That was something that people used to do, I think, a lot more back then than now. You
Yes.
don't really hear about it. Back then,
I
it was
know it was a
like,
real 80s thing. There's a whole club, these like emancipated people who didn't graduate or got their GEDs. And I almost did when I was pregnant with my second kid. I started to learn algebra again and I was like, I'm going to get my diploma. And then I just got pregnancy brain and stopped, doing it. And I sort of almost have this like thing, like one day I'll do it, but do I really have to? I don't know. But yeah, it was a whole club. Like there's a whole group of us that got emancipated. And I don't know how I feel about it. It wasn't like we got overworked. I think in the end, it didn't really serve its purpose because it's meant to you work adult hours and you don't have to take breaks for school. But often you were working with other kids who weren't emancipated, so you were taking breaks anyway. And I don't didn't feel that I was overworked because of it. So I think it just didn't even end up serving Hollywood the way they thought. But I could be wrong.
Right. I just have one last question. I did
Yes.
love that you added in the book that years later you and John Cusack slept
Oh
together,
yeah.
which I figure it was like, well, let's see if there's the magic
I
there.
know. Because there was so much talk about like maybe a reunion movie or whatever, a second part to. So it was almost like that kind of sentiment. Like I just kind of had to know personally. Like we had so much chemistry, and our characters were so great. Are we that great? And the reality is, it was fun and it was good, but it wasn't meant to be that we are gonna be this couple. But yeah, it's really funny. I think I had to know.
Wait, so for people that haven't read the book, can you tell us a little bit about like how that happened, how you guys reconnected?
We kept in touch a lot. So we were just texting the other day. We just became friends and we kept in touch. And so that was I think we really just I think it was before cell phones the first time. So I think we just like one of us hit the other one up, or we bumped into each other, and I was single and he was single, and we just thought this is the time. And then I went over to his place in LA. And then the other time I was living in New York, and he just it was like hitting each other up the way people do. And he was like, I'm coming through New York. And I was like, okay, let's try this again. And we ended up he likes painting, and so we ended up kind of painting, and then we fooled around and we did it, and it was again just like fine, and but we weren't like wasn't like a match.